Hello, I'm Frost and welcome to this video where I'm going to be covering the upcoming expansion called Invasions for Age of Wonders Planetfall. So on April 16th, Triumph Studios announced their next expansion for Age of Wonders Planetfall called Invasions. This is the second of 3 announced expansions. The first one was back in November 2019 and was called Revelations. Now we've got this one called Invasions, which is arriving on the 26th of May 2020. And then we have a third one that's been announced that will be coming sometime in autumn of this year as well. So let's go back and look at what we've got in Invasions. Well, we have lots to cover and it's all exciting stuff. Obviously the main element of it is we have lizard people, and I like my lizard people. I love the Taladi and X4 foundations, and now I have lizard people, or to use their proper name, the Sharkan, in Age of Wonders Planetfall. So they are a playable faction. The previous DLC only gave us a secret tech, which was the Heritor. Now we have a new faction. So the Sharkan, what makes them specific? You know, what is it about them? Well, fortunately, through some dev guides and some basic info from the website, I've managed to get a few bits and pieces together to give us an inkling of what we actually get in this DLC. So with the Sharkans, if we bring up the Sharkan Raiders, the first thing you're going to see is that they are basically these kind of omni characters that do a bit of everything. So they have both a melee weapon and a ranged weapon, and they both do the same amount of damage. So they're kind of very much kind of an all-rounder race, especially in the early tiers, which are the only ones we know about right now. Now, these weapons are a mixture of sonic, which is essentially a kinetic weapon, and a laser weapon. And the thing to be aware of is that they will do less damage at range. So clearly the sonic aspect has an effect on how far away you are from your target. So there's something to be aware of. Now, the other thing, if you look down this list on the left-hand side, is you'll see they're amphibious. Now, what I presume that to mean is that they are the same as flying units in that they can just move across water without any penalties. You know, with the other units that are not flying units, you have to actually kind of dock onto a ship and then undock on the other side. So they shouldn't be suffering from that, which makes them much more maneuverable, which is very, very handy. And if that applies across the whole of the species, then that's great news. Now we have these two extra abilities called epimorphic regeneration and xenodebilitation. These words, I'm never good at my long words, so these don't help at all. So hopefully I'm just going to call epi and xeno from now on. So with epi and xeno, I would assume from epi that is some kind of automatic regen. That's as far as we can tell. Obviously, we're going to have to wait a little bit closer to the date. You know, hopefully we'll get another dev guide will give us a little bit more detail what that's about. But there's clearly some kind of regen, whether they do it on their own or whether they can do it, like, for example, the assembly from corpses and things like that. I don't know, but it's something that seems to be standard across all the units, as we'll see in the next unit in a minute. And then the same with the xenodebilitation. That seems to be, from the name, I would presume that that would somehow affect anything in melee combat that's close to them would get some kind of nerf. But we'll have to see again. But either way, both of those seem to be standard across all of the Sharkan race. Now, if we move on to the Infiltrator, now this is the interesting unit, because this unit has this thing called the Hollow Shift, which essentially allows it to mimic another unit. Now you'll see straight away that on the right hand side it's missing its mod slots. Now the reason why is because this unit, whatever unit it mimics of the enemy, it will acquire its weapon type. So obviously, as mods are very weapon specific or particular damage specific, this means that you can't apply mods to it unless hopefully it will inherit the mods of the unit that it kind of mimics, but we'll have to wait and see on that. What I don't know as yet, and it'll be interesting, is whether this unit can use this mimic ability to infiltrate on the strategic map, because it's got universal camouflage, so it can move around the strategic map without being seen. And it would be awesome if you could like find an army of like 3 or 4 units and on the strategic map and of the enemy, and you could just go up and infiltrate your unit in there. So when that unit eventually attacks you, your units are already infiltrated into theirs. But I got a feeling it may only be on the tactical combat. But if Triumph Studios, you're watching this, maybe that would be a cool thing to do if you haven't done it already. So there you go. So that's the Infiltrators. And as you can see, once again, they've got the regen and the Xeno. Now, there's also a mention of another item that was mentioned on their website, another unit called the Brutal Domok. Deploy the Brutal Domok to crush them outright. So I assume that's going to be their high-end unit, so like the Pteranodon, for example, for the Amazons or something like that, or the Dreadnought for the Dvar, is their kind of heavy unit. And I would like to think that it's some kind of Godzilla, big lizard thing that just stomps around. So we will have to see. But the Brutal Domok has been mentioned. And then finally with the Sharkan, apparently 2 mission campaigns have been announced as well. So if you like doing the campaign stuff, there'll be 2 missions there as well. So that's great. Now we move on to a new NPC race, and these are the furries. Yep, so we've had lizards, now we've got furries, and the furries are called the Therians. And apparently they are led by this chap called Deer. And as you can see from the picture, he seems to be a mixture of a tiger with antlers. So can't tell you why, but there we go. So, but clearly looking at the paws, it looks like tiger paws, and then he's got, see, the antlers, and he's kind of their boss unit. And then we can also see, if we move on, we've got wolves as snipers, as is clearly seen from these weapons, and these are very much bioweapons. Now the unfortunate thing is that not animals, they are mutants, so the Amazons can't take them over, unfortunately, and do a primal override on them, which is a shame, because that would have been really handy, because these units would be super powerful. But anyway, so we know we've got the wolves. If we look down the bottom here at the units, you'll see as well that we've got some squirrels. So I'm going to assume the squirrels are going to be melee. You know, they can just rush up because they're super quick. So they can just rush up and just like claw away. And then we also have wolves. And if we go back to the preceding sort of screen grab that we had, as you can see, these wolves clearly have assault rifles. So they're kind of the troopers of this, this new NPC race of Therians. So all looks good. They will be interesting to fight and to see how to deal with them. I'll be interested to see with the wolves just how deadly their snipers are, as the snipers have always been quite OP in Planetfall. Then moving on, we come on to the Voidbringers. Now the Voidbringers are apparently related to the Psyfish, and as you can see from the tentacles, you know, it's kind of got the same look and feel as the Psyfish. And the Voidbringers are endgame content. And to use the words from the Age of Wonders Planetfall website, they use trans-dimensional warfare to rain down legions of enthralled soldiers across your empire. Now, what you will see from this is that it appears that these are dead units from game combat. So here we can see clearly those are Sharkan units with the Psyfish. And if we go to this other sort of screen grab that they've presented, you can see on the right hand side there we've got a Transcendent, which is definitely a Kirko, and then some hidden over on the left there. So I would think that the way that this works is that whatever units have died on combat during the game, as you get towards the end game to rush you along, these units will just start basically raining down, to use their term. So they will just magically appear in areas of your empire that you have to then go and protect. And they will be using both these Psyfish kind of Voidbringer units mixed in with units from the actual game that has taken place. So very interesting. I don't know how strong these units will be and how difficult they will be to deal with. Normally by endgame you're kind of pretty busy already, so this is going to add another element of rushing around for the endgame. Then what we have is we have something that's been brought in from Age of Wonders 3. Age of Wonders 3 was the kind of the fantasy-based one of which Planetfall it comes from. And then you said this thing called world events, and these were just random events that happened that would affect everything across the strategic map. So in here we've got 2 examples. We've got the case of Earthquake, and as you'll see, these events affect both the strategic and the tactical map. So in this case with the Earthquake, it will terraform certain areas and turn them into mountain sectors, and then on the tactical map you'll get stagger effects happening every few rounds. And then we have this other one called Reflective Dust, which gives universal camouflage on strategic maps, so you can't see anybody's units until they're right up in your face. And you then get decreased accuracy on ranged attacks on the tactical map. So I think I remember saying there's like 20 of these. There's a whole variety of them, all kinds of different ones, just to add up to the mix of the game and to make everything more frantic. Just what we need. Thank you, Triumph. And then other mentions in the dev notes. There's a new Npc faction. Now I assume they're not talking about the Therians because they've already gone in depth about them. Well, not in depth, but they've mentioned them, described some units. So maybe this is another Npc faction. There's going to be new exploration sites. So as you know, the exploration sites have their own kind of maps, which are for combat, which is really nice. So they're going to add some more of those. There's going to be some new wildlife. So as well as our rabbit peglets and our penguins, we're going to get some new wildlife to fight as well, and for the Amazons to take over, hopefully. And then finally, there's word of a cooperative world template, which I assume means these are scenarios that you can play, or planets as they're now called, that you can play, and you can play with your buddies. So all good stuff. So once again, that is coming out on May 26th, and I'm super excited about it. And I will be playing the Sharkan as soon as I can after the game has been released, and also giving you the lowdown on all the details. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please give me a like if you did, and give me a thumbs up. Please subscribe if you're really interested in Age of Wonders Planetfall, as I do produce a lot of content for this particular game. And hit the bell icon if you want to be notified of new releases. Right, that's it. Thank you for watching. Until next time, bye for now.